This is the scene of the first Bloody Sunday in Ireland in the 20th century, a rather bloody century in itself. And behind me, in the space between the GPO here and the Larkin statue, between 400 and 600 people were seriously injured on the 31st of August 1913. It was the beginning of what became known as the Great Dublin Lock-Out of that year, which dragged on into January, when about a third of the population were literally on the breadline in a huge battle between the Transport Union and the Trades Council on one hand, and William Martin Murphy and the employers on the other. At the time, Cleary's was a store, but it was also a building that contained the Imperial Hotel, and both of them were owned by William Martin Murphy, who was the largest employer in Dublin at the time. And Murphy had decided to smash the Transport Union, Jim Larkin's union, and on the previous Tuesday he had used a strike by tramway workers to lock out all the Transport Union members in the city, and he had the cooperation of 400 other employers to do this. So Larkin called a mass rally in protest in O Connell Street on the following Sunday, August the 31st. But Dublin Castle banned it, probably at the request of Murphy, and the meeting was proclaimed. So what the unions did was they organised a march out to Fairview, to where Marino is now, and had a big rally there, which passed off fairly peacefully. However, Larkin had other ideas. He'd given a promise that he would speak in O'Connell Street, and he said he'd keep it. So he went on the run. He was hidden by Countess Markievicz, who was a good friend of his and very active supporter of the labour movement. He hid out in her house in Rathmines, and on Bloody Sunday he came into the city heavily disguised. He was wearing Casimir Markievicz, that's her husband, wearing Casimir Markiewicz's frock coat and a false beard. The reason, of course, why Larkin had to enter the hotel in disguise was because he was by then one of the best known people, not only in Ireland but in Britain. His picture is regularly on the front pages of the newspapers as a troublemaker, as a trade unionist, as a labour leader, as a major critic of the capitalist system. He also had this very powerful voice. My father would have heard him speak, and my father would have said it was like an opera singer. He had tremendous power in his voice. He could project it over a crowd of thousands of people. You've got to remember, this was an age before megaphones, let alone microphones or audio cues or all the equipment we have today. So he had this tremendously powerful voice, very distinctive voice, Liverpool Irish, Scouse accent. So as soon as he opened his mouth anywhere in Dublin, people would know who he was. Ironically enough, in spite of all that, and although he didn't die until 1947, we do not have a single recording of Larkin's voice. When they went into the room they'd booked, they found a large aspidistra plant in the window. Larkin had to lift it down with some difficulty, and then they found the actual window frame was nailed shut. So at that stage there was nothing for it, but he ran out into the corridor, ran down the corridor, pulling off the beard and the other bits of his disguise as he ran into the dining room where people were having their Sunday lunch, ran out onto the balcony, which is under Cleary's clock, well, where Cleary's clock now is, and began to speak. Now the people in the street were mainly just day trippers and mass goers and people on their way to Sunday lunch in the hotel and other eateries on the street when this happened, and they all surged forward to hear what he was saying. And Countess Markievicz had come into the street as well with a brake, a sort of small horse and cart, and she whipped the horse forward to hear what he had to say, and she also shouted 3 cheers for Jim Larkin. At this point, all the senior police officers on the street, a lot of policemen on the street on the alert for trouble, they ran into the hotel to arrest Larkin, and there was a sergeant left in charge of the police detachment in front of the hotel. And when he saw the crowd surge forward to hear and see what was going on, he ordered his men to drive them back. Now, he said in the inquiry afterwards he never told them to draw their batons, but that's what they did. And they started to baton the crowd, and the people ran away from the policemen, ran in this direction, down this laneway to escape from the police. Unfortunately, the laneway was blocked by policemen who were guarding the back of another Murphy establishment, Independent Newspapers. And when they saw the crowd surge forward again, they thought they were trying to attack Murphy's newspaper, and they countercharged. and the crowd were trapped in that area behind me, between me basically and the Jim Larkin statue. And as I say, between 400 and 600 people were seriously injured. They included Sean O'Casey, the future playwright, who was a member of the Transport Union, and literally hundreds of people were taken to Jervis Street Hospital around the corner and to other hospitals in the area, and the health services were inundated with casualties. Miraculously, no one actually died in that particular encounter, although people did die in other confrontations between the police and rioters over that weekend.